How does one woman go from playing a literal elf queen to a Soviet villain and make both look easy? Is Cate Blanchett the greatest living actor, or is she actually a shapeshifter pranking us all? Let's find out. The Royal Launchpad. Before she was scaring the daylights out of superheroes or conducting fake orchestras, Cate Blanchett was a theater kid from Australia, just trying to pay the bills. It is easy to look at her now, draped in couture, and holding 2 Oscars, and assume she emerged fully formed from a golden egg. But her journey to the throne wasn't a straight line. She started in the trenches of Australian theater, doing the kind of gritty, unglamorous work that builds character, or at least gives you really good stories for talk shows later. Her cinematic coronation happened in 1998 with Elizabeth. This was the moment the world sat up and realized we were dealing with a different breed of talent. Playing Queen Elizabeth I is a rite of passage for British actresses, like learning to make a proper cup of tea or complaining about the weather. But for an Australian to swoop in and steal the crown jewels, that was bold. Director Shekhar Kapoor cast her not because she was famous, but because she had a translucent quality that could shift from terrified girl to iron-willed monarch in a single scene. Blanchett famously almost turned down the role because she thought the script was a misogynistic piece of crap, which is honestly the most Cate Blanchett thing she could possibly say. But once she committed, she went all in. She shaved her hairline to mimic the Queen's high forehead and bleached her eyelashes until they were practically invisible. The result was a performance that didn't just tell history, it felt like we were watching a raw nerve ending exposed to the air. She went from a dancing, flirtatious girl to a white-faced icon of virginity who declared she was married to England. It was a transformation so complete that when the credits rolled, you forgot she was actually a modern woman who probably enjoys pizza and wears jeans. The Elf Queen of the box office. If Elizabeth won her respect, The Lord of the Rings won her immortality. Casting Galadriel was a tricky proposition. The character is basically an ancient, all-powerful elf who is older than the sun and scarier than a tax audit. You need an actor who can project thousands of years of wisdom while standing completely still in a glowing dress. Blanchett stepped into the shoes of the Lady of Lothlorien and somehow made valid the idea that she could read your mind and potentially destroy you if you stepped on her lawn. What's funny is that she has since joked that she barely got paid for the role. She once told a talk show host that no one got paid anything for those movies and that she basically did it for the free sandwiches and the chance to keep the prosthetic ears. But the impact was priceless. For an entire generation, she became the face of ethereal wisdom. She managed to deliver lines about the history of the ring without making them sound like she was reading a textbook. When she went into her Dark Queen mode, where she turns green and screams about how all shall love her and despair, it was a terrifying glimpse of what she could do with a villainous role. It was a foreshadowing of the chaos she would unleash later in her career, but for the moment, she was the benevolent, glowing aunt of Middle-earth. It proved she could anchor a massive blockbuster franchise without losing an ounce of her artistic credibility. The Art of the Chameleon. After conquering history and fantasy, Blanchett decided to tackle the impossible, playing Bob Dylan. In Todd Haynes' I'm Not There, she was one of 6 actors playing different facets of the folk legend. While Christian Bale and Heath Ledger played versions of Dylan, Blanchett played Jude Quinn, the electric Dylan of the mid-60s. This wasn't just putting on a wig and lowering her voice. This was a total molecular rearrangement. She walked like him, smoked like him, and threw insults at the press with the same nasal sneer that Dylan made famous. She reportedly stuffed a sock down her pants to help her walk with more male swagger, which is the kind of commitment that wins you awards and confuses your family members. It is arguably the best performance in the film because it captures the strangeness of Dylan's fame. She disappeared so thoroughly that you stopped looking for the actress and just saw the skinny, strung-out rock star. This role cemented her reputation as a chameleon. She wasn't just a leading lady who needed to look pretty. She was a character actor in a movie star's body. She followed this up by winning her first Oscar for The Aviator, where she played another icon, Katharine Hepburn. Playing a real person is hard. Playing a real person who is also a famous actor with a very specific voice is a trap. But Blanchett managed to channel Hepburn's angular energy and rapid-fire speech without turning it into a Saturday Night Live sketch. She found the human being beneath the mannerisms. A masterclass in malice. Now we get to the fun part. Somewhere around the mid-2010s, Blanchett seemed to decide that being noble was boring and that being evil was much more fun. She entered her villain era, and honestly, we are all better for it. Let's talk about Hela in Thor, Ragnarok. In a universe filled with generic bad guys who want to blow up the world for vague reasons, Hela was a breath of fresh, toxic air. She didn't just want power, she wanted to make an entrance. From the moment she shattered Thor's hammer like it was made of peanut brittle, she established herself as the alpha in the room. She played Hela not as a screaming monster, but as a bored, aristocratic relative who was annoyed that you changed the locks while she was away. She slinked around Asgard with a hip-swaying walk that launched 1,000 memes, delivering lines, with a purr that suggested she was thinking about murder and afternoon tea in equal measure. She described her performance as enjoying a bit of genocide, which sums up the vibe perfectly. She treated the apocalypse like a family reunion gone wrong. While other Marvel villains were busy explaining their evil plans, Hela was busy looking fabulous and stabbing zombies. She brought a theatrical, Shakespearean weight to a movie that was largely a comedy, grounding the absurdity with genuine menace. But Hela wasn't her first rodeo in the villain department. We have to mention Irina Spalko in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now that movie has its problems, aliens and swinging monkeys come to mind. But Blanchett's Soviet scientist is not one of them. With a bob cut so sharp it could slice bread and an accent that could freeze vodka, she leaned into the campiness of the role with delight. She held her sword like a baton and looked at Harrison Ford like he was a particularly interesting bug she wanted to dissect. She understood that in a pulp adventure, the villain needs to be larger than life, and she delivered a performance that was equal parts terrifying and stylish. Then there is Hannah, where she played Marissa Viegler, a CIA operative who makes the Terminator look like a guidance counselor. This was a different kind of evil. It wasn't the bombastic cape-wearing evil of Hela. It was the cold, bureaucratic evil of a woman who views murder as a spreadsheet error. She moved through the film like a sentient drone, a predator in a tailored suit who never let her pulse rise above resting. The southern drawl she adopted was subtle but deliberate, masking her brutality with a veneer of politeness. It was a reminder that she doesn't need superpowers to be scary. She just needs a gun and a good dental plan. The Blue Jasmine Breakdown. In 2013, Blanchett returned to the awards circuit with Blue Jasmine, a film that stripped away the costumes and the CGI and left her with nothing but raw, unfiltered neurosis, playing a disgraced socialite whose life falls apart after her husband's financial crimes. Blanchett delivered a performance that was uncomfortable to watch in the best way possible. She was twitchy, sweaty, and medicated. She talked to herself. She lied to everyone. It was a portrait of a woman in freefall, clawing at the air as she went down. Critics called it a modern-day A Streetcar Named Desire, and Blanchett won her second Oscar for it. What makes this performance stand out in her evolution is that it showed the ugly side of glamour. Up until this point, she had often played characters who were in control: queens, elves, spies. Jasmine was a woman who had lost all control, but was desperately pretending she hadn't. It was a masterclass in anxiety. She famously said she approached the role not by judging Jasmine, but by seeing her as someone unaware of the destruction she was causing. The Coolest Criminal. Bridging the gap between her intense dramatic work and her blockbuster villainy is her role as Lou in Ocean's 8. This character wasn't evil, and she wasn't having a breakdown. She was just incredibly, effortlessly cool. Wearing velvet suits and riding motorcycles, she played the partner in crime to Sandra Bullock's Debbie Ocean. Lou was the morally gray anchor of the team, the one who kept everyone focused while looking like she just walked off a runway in 1974. Blanchett brought a swagger to this role that felt different from her other characters. It wasn't the regal power of Galadriel or the manic energy of Jasmine. It was a quiet, confident lesbro energy that sent the internet into a tailspin. She didn't have to do much but lean against a wall and smirk to steal the scene. It proved that she could fit into an ensemble cast and still shine without sucking all the oxygen out of the room. It was the perfect palate cleanser before her next massive undertaking. The magnum opus. And then, in 2022, came Lydia Tarr, the summit of her technical skill. Playing a world-renowned conductor accused of misconduct, Blanchett didn't just learn lines. She learned a new life. She learned to speak German. She learned to play the piano. She learned to conduct a real orchestra. She worked with a professional conductor, Natalie Murray Beale, to master the physicality of the baton, learning to lead the musicians not just with her hands, but with her breath in her eyes. The film is dense, intellectual, and challenging, but Blanchett makes it magnetic. The character of Lydia Tarr is a monster, but a very human one. She is arrogant, predatory, and dismissive, yet Blanchett makes you watch her every move. The scene where she bullies a student at Juilliard is terrifying because it is so articulate. She dissects the kid's arguments with the precision of a surgeon, using her intellect as a weapon. What is fascinating about Tar is how it blurs the line between actor and character. The marketing for the film treated Lydia Tar as a real person, releasing a Wikipedia page and a concept album for her. Blanchett's performance was so convincing that people actually Googled, "Is Lydia Tar real?" after watching the movie. She captured the specific loneliness of being at the top of a hierarchy, the paranoia of cancel culture, and the obsession of an artist who cares more about the work than the people around her. It was a role that required every tool in her kit: the regality of Elizabeth, the menace of Hela, and the brokenness of Jasmine. So, what is the it factor that ties all these roles together? How do you draw a line from a virgin queen to a death goddess to a disgraced conductor? The answer lies in her fearlessness. Cate Blanchett is an actor who runs toward the fire. She doesn't care if a role makes her look ugly, crazy, or mean. She doesn't rely on vanity. She treats a Marvel movie with the same seriousness as an indie drama, and she treats an indie drama with the same scale as a blockbuster. From Middle-earth to the Berlin Philharmonic, Cate Blanchett has proven that she is the final boss of acting. Which of her eras is your favorite? Are you Team Galadriel, Team Hela, or are you still recovering from Tar? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into the careers of Hollywood's elite, smash that like button and subscribe to Popcorn Central. I'm off to learn the piano and speak German just to feel productive. Peace.